We were not supposed to be there. I was assigned as a field investigator to document a remote excavation site in the Seven Mountains region. At first, it looked like just another overgrown jungle survey. Nothing unusual. But that changed the moment we left the main trail. The GPS stopped updating. Not weak signal. It completely froze. Mason kept recalculating the coordinates, saying the map didn't match the terrain anymore. I thought it was a technical error, until we found something we were never supposed to find. A structure, half buried in the jungle, made of stone that didn't match any known civilization. No records, no history, nothing. Just there. Harlan didn't say anything at first. He just stared at it, like he already knew what it was. Then Mason's GPS started beeping again. But this time, it wasn't showing our location. It was showing something below us. And Harlan finally spoke. He said, "We weren't the first team to come here." Moment. Harlan kept staring at the structure, like it was staring back. The GPS was still beeping, but the signal wasn't stabilizing. It was getting stronger, pointing straight down. Mason tried to laugh it off, said it was probably interference from underground minerals, but nobody believed that anymore. Not after what we just saw. Harlan finally raised his hand. "Don't dig," he said. Just that. 2 words. No explanation. Mason ignored him and stepped closer to the structure. He ran his scanner along the stone. The device immediately glitched. Static. Then a clean signal returned. And on the screen, a perfect schematic of tunnels beneath us. Too complex to be natural, too precise to be ancient. Mason stopped breathing. "This was built," he whispered. From below the structure, a faint sound came, like metal. Shifting. Harlan stepped back immediately. For the first time, he looked afraid. Then he said the second rule. "If something shows you what's underneath, you don't look twice." Mason didn't listen. He kept staring at the scanner. The signal changed again. Now it wasn't mapping tunnels. It was mapping movement. Something below us had started to move. Slowly, directly under the structure. And then, the ground beneath Mason cracked slightly, just enough for something inside to breathe out away from the crack immediately. No one wanted to stay near whatever had just breathed from below. Mason checked his scanner again. The tunnel map was gone. The screen was completely blank. For a few seconds, the jungle was silent. Then Harlan finally spoke. "Now you understand." "Understand what?" I asked. He looked at the crack. "This is why nobody talks about relic hunters." Mason frowned. "What does that have to do with this place?" Harlan sighed. "A relic hunter doesn't find treasure." He pointed at the ground. "A relic hunter finds things that were supposed to stay hidden." Nobody had a response to that. I asked how many teams had come here before us. Harlan hesitated. 5. "How many came back?" A long pause. 1. The answer hit harder than I expected. Mason stared at the structure. "Then who built this?" For the first time, Harlan looked uncomfortable. "I don't know." That scared me more than the crack, because Harlan always seemed to know something. Slowly, he opened an old waterproof folder from his backpack. The cover was faded, but one line was still readable. Expedition 04, Recovery Report. Inside was a single photograph, the same structure, the same jungle, taken years before we arrived. 6 people stood in front of it, but according to the report, only 1 survived. Then I noticed something written in the corner of the image. 3 words, "Do not go below." Nobody spoke. Then Mason looked at the date printed beneath the photograph, and his face immediately changed. The picture had been taken 3 years after the expedition officially disappeared. Happened at the ruins, Nobody talked much. Not about the underground coordinates, not about the symbol, and definitely not about what moved beneath us. The GPS was still showing the same thing. Something below the mountain. Something impossible. What bothered me wasn't the signal. It was Harlan. He wasn't surprised. Not even a little. While Mason spent hours trying to understand the coordinates, Harlan acted like he'd seen this before. That night, I finally asked another relic hunter about him. The man stared at me for a few seconds. Then he laughed. Not because it was funny, because he couldn't believe I didn't know. "You're working with Harlan Briggs?" I nodded. The smile disappeared from his face. Then he said something strange. If Harlan takes a job, it means everyone else already said no. I thought he was exaggerating. Then he showed me an old photograph. The image was nearly 20 years old. A relic hunting team standing in front of ruins. Not these ruins. Different ruins. Different country. Same symbol. The 3 circles crossed by a line. My stomach dropped. Standing in the center of the photograph was Harlan Briggs. The same face, the same expression, the same age. I checked the date again. 20 years old. I looked back at the photo, then at Harlan sitting across the campfire. Nothing had changed. Not his hair, not his face. Nothing. The relic hunter noticed my reaction. Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice. "You know what they call him?" I shook my head. "The legend." I laughed. Nobody else did. Then the man told me why. Over the years, entire expeditions vanished. Guides disappeared. Researchers disappeared. Treasure hunters disappeared. But somehow, Harlan always came back, alone. And he never explained what happened. The fire crackled between us. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then Mason walked into camp, holding the GPS. The device had started beeping again. Slow, steady, almost like a heartbeat. I looked at the screen. The coordinates weren't changing anymore. They had locked onto a single location, directly beneath us. Everyone was staring at the display. Everyone except Harlan. Because Harlan wasn't looking at the GPS, he was looking into the jungle, into the darkness beyond the camp, like he had noticed something. Something watching us. Then he quietly said the words that made the entire camp fall silent. "It's here again." And for the first time, Harlan Briggs looked afraid. Harlan said those words. Nobody slept. Not me. Not Mason. Not anyone in the camp. The GPS kept beeping throughout the night, slow, steady, like something underground was alive. Every few minutes, the signal grew stronger, and every time it did, Harlan looked deeper into the jungle, like he was waiting for something to appear. Nobody asked him what he meant. Nobody wanted the answer. Around 3 in the morning, I finally opened the file that started all of this. The reason I came to the 7 Mountains. The reason I accepted the job. Months earlier, a private research sponsor contacted me. They claimed an unknown archaeological site had been discovered somewhere in Southeast Asia. No coordinates, no photographs, no official records. Only rumors. At first I ignored it. People send fake stories all the time. Then they showed me one image, a satellite photograph. Nothing unusual at first. Just mountains, forest, cloud cover. Then I noticed something. A perfectly circular shadow, hidden beneath the trees, too large to be natural. The sponsor offered more money than I'd ever seen, enough to pay off every debt I had, enough to change my life. There was only one condition. If we found anything, everything belonged to them. Every artifact, every document, every discovery. At the time, that didn't seem strange. Now it did. Because nobody spends that kind of money for ruins, not unless they already know what's there. The more I looked through the contract, the worse it became. Entire pages were missing. Names were blacked out. Several signatures had been removed completely, almost like someone wanted us to work the expedition without knowing who hired us. A gust of wind pushed through camp. The papers slipped from my hands. One page landed beside the fire. For a second, I thought it was blank. Then hidden writing appeared in the heat. Old ink, previously invisible. A single sentence, written across the bottom of the page. I felt my stomach tighten, because the handwriting matched the notebook Harlan carried. The message said, "If you are reading this, they already know you found it." I stared at the page, trying to understand. Then Mason suddenly shouted. Everyone turned. The GPS screen was changing again. The underground coordinates had disappeared, replaced by something else. A date. No location. No numbers. Just a date. The same date printed on the 20-year-old photograph. The same date from Harlan's missing expedition. The same date from the notebook. Nobody spoke, nobody moved. Then Harlan quietly closed the notebook and said something that made the situation even worse. "That's not the date they went missing." He looked toward the darkness, toward whatever he thought was out there. Then he finished the sentence. "That's the date they came back." Harlan said those words. "That's the date they came back." Nobody spoke. The jungle felt dead silent. Not normal silence, the kind that makes you feel like something is listening. Harlan closed the notebook and walked away from the fire. No explanation, no answers, just darkness. Mason stared at the GPS. I stared at Harlan, because I was starting to realize something. Months before I accepted the expedition, someone tried to stop me. A retired relic hunter named Victor Hale sent me an email. No greeting, no message, just a scanned journal page. In the center was a symbol. 3 circles crossed by a single vertical line. The same symbol we kept finding everywhere. Underneath it was a warning. "If you find this symbol in the 7 mountains, leave immediately. Do not follow it underground." At the time, I ignored it. Most relic hunters hear stories like that. Warnings, curses, legends. Then I remembered something else. The email contained a photograph, an expedition photo dated 20 years earlier. I opened it again that night. At first, it looked ordinary. 6 explorers standing in front of dense jungle. Old equipment, old clothing, old camera. Nothing unusual. Then I zoomed in, and my stomach dropped. Standing in the back row was Harlan Briggs, not someone who looked like him. Harlan. Same face, same hair, same scar beside his eye. The photograph was 20 years old. But Harlan hadn't aged a day. I looked toward the edge of camp, toward the man sitting alone in the darkness, watching the jungle, watching something I couldn't see. Then Mason suddenly shouted. The GPS was changing again. The coordinates disappeared. A single date appeared on the screen. The same date from the photograph. The same date from the notebook. The same date from the missing expedition. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Harlan slowly looked up, as if he already knew what the GPS was going to show. Then I remembered the final sentence Victor Hale had written beneath the photograph. The sentence I should have listened to. If anyone claims they survived the 7 mountains, ask them why they haven't aged. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what was waiting in the mountains. I was afraid of Harlan Briggs. Night. Nobody trusted Harlan anymore. Nobody said it out loud. But everyone was thinking it. The photograph was real, 20 years old. And somehow, Harlan looked exactly the same. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. No explanation, no denial, no questions. Just another day in the jungle. That bothered me more than anything. Around noon, we reached the remains of an abandoned campsite. Not ours, not recent. The tents had collapsed years ago. Equipment was scattered beneath vines and mud. Rust covered everything. Nature had almost erased the place. Almost. Because someone had left something behind. A metal field case. Locked, half buried beneath roots. Mason forced it open. Inside were documents, photographs, field reports, and one sealed evidence bag. The label had faded, but one word was still readable. Hale. Victor Hale. The same relic hunter who warned me. The same man who sent the photograph. Nobody spoke. I opened the bag. Inside was a piece of dried skin. Human skin, folded carefully like paper. For a moment I thought it was fake. Then I saw the pores, the scars, the texture, real. Someone had removed it from a human body and drawn on it lines, symbols, coordinates, a map. The symbol appeared again. 3 circles crossed by a vertical line, repeated over and over, like landmarks, like directions. The map pointed toward the mountains, toward something underground. Mason immediately started comparing the markings with the GPS data. The match was impossible. The same locations, the same route, the same destination. Whoever created the map had known about the underground coordinates decades earlier. Then Harlan finally reacted, for the first time all day. His face changed. Not fear. Recognition. Like he had seen the map before. I asked him where it came from. He didn't answer. I asked him whose skin it was. He looked away. Then he quietly said something none of us expected. I thought they destroyed that. Nobody asked who they were, because another discovery was already waiting. Written across the back of the skin map, hidden between old scars, was a name. Not a location. Not a warning. A name. Harlan Briggs. The camp went silent. Mason stared at the skin. Then at Harlan. Then back at the skin. Nobody knew what to say, because there was only one question left. If Victor Hale created the map, why was Harlan's name already on it 20 years ago? And if the map was drawn finding Harlan's name on the skin map, nobody trusted him anymore. The next afternoon, we reached a remote village hidden between the 7 mountains. Victor Hale had marked it in his notes. We thought we'd find answers. Instead, we found fear. The moment the villagers saw Harlan, everything changed. People stopped talking. Children were pulled inside, doors closed, windows shut. Nobody wanted to look at him. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then, an old woman dropped a basket when she saw Harlan. She looked terrified, not surprised. Terrified. We eventually found the village elder. I showed him the symbol, 3 circles crossed by a vertical line. His hands started shaking. Then I showed him the skin map. The old man stared at it for a long time, before whispering a single word. Returned. I asked him what that meant. He didn't answer. Instead, he pointed toward a faded photograph hanging on the wall. I turned around and felt my stomach drop. The photograph was decades old, standing among the villagers. Was Harlan Briggs? Same face, same scar, same eyes, exactly the same. I told the old man that was impossible. Harlan wasn't that old. The elder slowly shook his head. Then he leaned closer and whispered something that made my blood run cold. We buried him. Nobody spoke. I stared at the photograph, then at Harlan standing outside, watching the jungle, watching something beyond it. The old man never said another word, because at that moment, the church bell outside suddenly started ringing, and every villager ran into their homes, as if they knew something was coming. After the church bell started ringing, the entire village shut down. Doors closed, windows locked. Nobody stayed outside. Nobody except us and Harlan. I showed the village elder the old photograph, the one showing Harlan standing here decades ago. You said you buried him. What do you mean? The old man stared at me. then quietly said, "Because we did." I asked one final question. If Harlan died, who came back? The elder's face turned pale. He looked toward the window. Harlan was standing outside, watching us. Then the old man whispered, "The thing that came back." The lights suddenly went out, only for a second. When they returned, the elder was gone. His chair remained. The door was still locked. But the only man who knew the answer had disappeared. Then Harlan stepped into the room, looked at the empty chair, and calmly said, "That's the second time he's disappeared." And for the first time, I realized Harlan wasn't surprised. He was expecting it. After the village went silent, everything felt too normal, too clean, like nothing had happened. But the GPS wasn't normal anymore. Mason turned it on. The symbol appeared again. 3 circles, 1 vertical line. Then it started forming a map, the entire mountain range. Live. I asked Harlan what was happening. He didn't even look surprised, like he already knew. Then he said, "It's not a place." Suddenly, a deep sound came from underground. Metal turning. Slow. Massive. Birds flew out of the trees all at once. The GPS changed again. A countdown appeared. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The ground began to shake. Mason backed away. I looked at Harlan. He was already walking into the jungle. I shouted, "Where are you going?" He didn't stop, only said, "They didn't disappear. They were returned." And that's when I understood. We weren't exploring the mountains. We were being accepted by them,